All right, boys, we are back. We have Premier League predictions for match week 13. You might be wondering where I am right now. I'm currently at my parents' house. It was Thanksgiving in the US, so it was a long weekend. That's why this video is coming out a little bit later than I would have liked it to. I would have liked it to be maybe 3 or 4 days before the match week, but you know, still trying to be consistent on YouTube here. So if you guys like the videos, if you guys like the predictions, if you guys like the streams even, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the channel. For anyone who's new here, that doesn't know how the predictions kind of work, I'll give my correct score predictions on every single match. It's not truly like betting advice in the sense of you should just take my correct scores, put the correct score, and just, you know, go off that. Pick what you like. If you agree with something, you know, that might be something you want to back. If there's a game that you're just curious to see what my brain is saying about the game, you know, you can look at it like that as well. I'm not a crystal ball, unfortunately. I wish I was. I wish I could get everything right, you know, every single match week. But, you know, there's going to be some great match weeks, some bad match weeks, some good predictions, some bad predictions. So I appreciate everybody who is joining along on my prediction journey here on YouTube. So without further ado, let's get to the predictions, boys. All right, so for the first match here, we have Brentford and Burnley. We have Brentford at 1.45, Burnley at 7. Both teams to score sitting at 1.95, and the over under I think is about 2.5 to 3, so about 2.75 is too odd here. Looking at form, Brentford is just like, okay, I think they have a couple of nice wins here at home. They have a nice win against Newcastle. They have a nice win against Liverpool, in fact, lost against Man City and beat Manchester United. So actually I take that back. They had some really nice wins here at home. Burnley away from home, kind of the opposite here, so that's why the odds make sense, you know, to me. Nothing like suspicious about the odds, right? 1.45 seems pretty fair given their form home and away. For this match, the way I decided to go with it was just pretty simple, where I wanted to just predict Brentford to win, and then the bigger issue I had was does Burnley get a goal or not, right? So I went to the head-to-head here. I went to Burnley away matches, and I did see a bunch of Burnley away BTTS, right? And now normally you would think, hey, that seems like a great idea. That's a great spot for both teams to score. But see, this is where I kind of divert from how other people go, right? People will use these previous statistics here to, you know, back a prediction of like both teams to score. But the way I see it is, if you told me Burnley was this good away from home at getting a goal, getting both teams to score to come in, then why do the books have it at 1.95, right? Would this not feel like a 1.65, 1.7 type of game? So for that reason, and given the total, given the 1x2 market lines, I'm going to go with a Brentford 2-0 prediction over Burnley. All right, so the next game here, we have Manchester City versus Leeds. We do know that Manchester City are in rough form, so let's see what the books are saying. The books have the market set at 1.22 for Manchester City to win, and Leeds is set at 12. I'll be honest, 12 is crazy. Now, do I think Leeds win? Absolutely not. Do I think Manchester City should get this W? Absolutely. But just from just a pure like number perspective, 12 odd is pretty absurd. But we all really, I mean, if you're sitting there watching this, you really cannot see yourself, you know, envisioning a City loss here. So the over under sits at about 3, which is a little bit lower. Maybe it's like 3.5, between 3 and 3.5, maybe even a 3.25 Asian line. Both teams to score sits at 2, so anything over 2 odd is always a little bit, you know, interesting to me. And then look at the form here, and we do know that City are coming off 2 L's in a row. They have lost to Newcastle, they lost to Leverkusen in pretty horrific fashion, but we do know that Pep Guardiola made a bunch of subs. I think it was something like 10. He made 10 subs, and he did say he regretted it. And then we have Leeds here, have only won 1 out of their last 5, which is against West Ham, a really struggling West Ham, I might add. Recent history won't show us much. It's a couple of years outdated, but we do have a couple of both teams to score in their recent 2 games here. So with all these things kind of like, you know, in my brain and trying to predict this match, I was really back and forth on how I same with the Burnley prediction, where do I want to give Leeds goal in a match like this? And that was my big decision here. The way I saw this match going was a simple Manchester City win over Leeds 3-0. All right, so for the next match, we have Sunderland and Bournemouth. We are seeing the odds placed at Bournemouth at 2.35, Sunderland at 3.1, which is a little bit surprising because I feel like Sunderland have been pretty decent at home. Bournemouth haven't been anything special away from home, so the lines right away are kind of like raising an eyebrow a little bit. Both teams to score sits at 1.75. I find that to be pretty normal, and the total is set right at 2.5, which I also feel is pretty normal. So let's look at Sunderland at home, right? And you see when you look at Sunderland at home that they have no losses in their last 5 at home. Bournemouth away from home haven't seen a win in 4 matches straight. So when you look at the odds again, you wonder to yourself, where are the books seeing Bournemouth get 2.35? Like if it was me placing the odds given the form, I would have I think Sunderland at 2.6, Bournemouth at about 2.5, and the draw at maybe 3.5, maybe something along those lines for the 1x2 market. So right away I'm a little bit intrigued by the fact that they have Bournemouth not only as a favorite but at 2.35 to win the match, given their away form has been, you know, pretty bad lately. So for Sunderland and Bournemouth, I went with a 2-1 Bournemouth win. All right, our next match here is Everton and Newcastle, and Everton is one of those interesting teams. I feel like I really predict some of their matches well, whether it's the both teams to score, whether it's the 1x2, whether it's the over under 2.5. I'm usually getting something right about Everton. Hopefully I just didn't jinx myself there though. Newcastle, kind of the opposite. Newcastle have been back and forth. I feel like when I'm trying to, predict their uprise, predict them to do well, it doesn't really work out. And when I feel like I'm out on them, they perform pretty badly. So let's check the odds here. We have 2.75 for Everton win, 2.7 for Newcastle win, and then we have 3.25 for the draw. Both teams to score set at 1.75. So it kind of just tells me, just in a nutshell, that they're really unsure who wins the match, right? They're giving each team almost a fair shot to win the match, and the draw is just slightly higher than each team to win odds, and the over under sits at 2.5. So if anybody knows me and sees my prediction for a long time, I think you can kind of guess where I'm going to go with this, given what we have here. Just based on what I'm seeing here, I'm going to go with an Everton Newcastle 1-1 draw. The next match we have is Tottenham and Fulham. Tottenham, one of those really tough teams for me to predict. Sometimes they go based off of form, sometimes they go based off of historical results versus a team. So I've been I would say I've been struggling a little bit, but they've been a tough team overall. Let's see what the books are saying on their odds here. They are 2.2 right now against Fulham at home, and Fulham are 3.3 to win, and the draw is at 3.3 as well. Both teams score sitting at 1.7, which, to be honest, is a little bit higher than I would have thought. I would have thought Tottenham and Fulham, given the fact that Tottenham played midweek, given the fact that Tottenham haven't been insane at clean sheets this year, and given the fact that Fulham are a scrappy team, I would have thought this could have been like maybe 1.55, maybe 1.6. So 1.7, a little bit higher than what I liked. The over under sits at about 2.5 here. So this kind of game, for some reason, I was just feeling a little bit more spark than what the odds are showing. Most matches, I will usually just bend the knee to the books, and whatever they're kind of presenting to us, I'll take. This was a match I saw being a little bit more spicy. I feel like just overall Tottenham's matches just recently in general just have had a lot of goals, right? It's not like they've been good defensively, but they have had offensive power to still put goals in themselves. And then Fulham, on the other hand, a little bit the opposite, but also a little bit the same, where we have recently they beat Sunderland 1-0. They lost to Everton 2-0, and I feel like conceding 2 goals to Everton's a little bit rough without scoring one of your own, so that's a little bit concerning to me. The Fulham also won 3-0 over Wolves, and they lost to Newcastle 2-1 in their recent matches in the Prem. Historically, there's not really much for us to work off of here. You got a Fulham 2-0 win. So if we look at Tottenham at home and see how they perform, we see a 1-1 draw, 2-0 draw, 2-1, 1-1, 3-1. But once we get past like 2023, in my opinion, I feel like the results get pretty outdated overall. So this was one of those matches where I wasn't really going to stick by the total or stick by the 1x2 market too much. So for Tottenham and Fulham, I went with a 2-2 draw. Next match we have is Crystal Palace versus Manchester United. We have Crystal Palace sitting at 2.25 for the win, and Manchester United sitting 3.2 for the win. Right away, I feel like this is a little bit low. I know United are coming off that disaster 1-0 loss to Everton, but I still feel like 2.25 for Crystal Palace is a little bit lower than I would have thought. I would have thought these odds would have been maybe like 2.5 for Crystal Palace, maybe 2.8 for Manchester United, and the draw would have been still like 3.4. Let's check out the both teams' score market, 1.62, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, that is the lowest one we've seen so far. 1.62 is significantly low compared to the other matches that we've already gone over so far, and the over under sits at about 3, just right at about 3, maybe 2.75. I'm curious to see where it closes at right for the match time. Crystal Palace at home have only lost 1 match in the last 5, and it was a Conference League match, and I'm not going to take Crystal Palace's Conference League matches too seriously when predicting Premier League matches. We know a lot of rotations happen, we know a lot of different things can be accounted for in these type of matches, so I'm not going to hold the Larnaca 1-0 loss against them, even though it is a pretty terrible loss, all things considered. United away from home, I mean, we got 2-2 draws, we got a 2-1 win against Liverpool, which was massive, and then we see a 3-1 Brentford loss and a 3-0 City loss as well. So we do have some, back and forth results here for United. Only 1 win though in their last 5, which is something to think about. And then we scroll in there to see the recent head-to-head here. And what I found interesting, so if you guys remember what I said about the both teams to score market being 1.62, which is the lowest one we've seen already, we do also look at their last few matches here. I don't want to go too far, but these last few matches here have all been both teams to score no. So it's a little bit of what do you think can happen, right? Do you think both teams to score no, historic trend, continues? Or do you believe the books when they have it at 1.62 for both teams to score? And for me, I decided to believe believe the books on this one. So for Crystal Palace and Manchester United, I'm going with a 1-1 draw. So next we have Aston Villa versus Wolves. The books see this match at Aston Villa being 1.5, Wolves being 6.25 on the win. And to be honest, 1.5, 4.33, 6.25, nothing really sticks out to me. Pretty fair odds, I would say, on all three. Both teams' score sits at 1.95, which I would kind of imagine, being Wolves are probably not looking that great away from home, or just in general to even score a goal. And the over-under sits right at about 2.7, maybe 2.5, 2.75. We'll see how that one goes. In a match like this, when the odds are that low for the home team, I usually have one way of viewing this match, especially with the both teams to score being above 1.9. So Villa at home are undefeated in their last 5 matches, and we have the Wolves, who have not seen a single win in their last 5 matches. I don't think there's anything to worry about here historically between the two teams. I don't think, when was the last time Wolves even got a result here? Looks like 2023, they got a 1-1 draw. But recently it has been Villa. So without spending too much time on this prediction, I'm going to go with a simple Aston Villa 2-0 win over Wolves. Next match we have is Nottingham Forest versus Brighton. Nottingham Forest is a really tough team to kind of predict in the Prem right now. They've just kind of been all over the place. New manager, just really trying to figure out their identity. And I still think they have quality players, but their results are just very inconsistent, it feels like. So the books have it at 2.75 for a Nottingham Forest win, a 2.63 for a win for Brighton, and a 3.3 in the draw. In a match like this, before I looked at the odds, I was pretty surprised to see a team like Nottingham Forest, who had a pretty good result in their midweek match. I think it was against Malmo, if I'm not mistaken. They won 3-0, which I did have predicted correct score, if you guys did see that on the Europa League video. So it is surprising to see Brighton lower odds than Nottingham Forest, because I feel like the teams, nothing really stands out between them. But for the books to have Brighton at 2.63, even if it is still pretty still pretty high number, but 2.63 is still a little bit surprising to me. That was the one takeaway I had in this match, was that Brighton being the favorite, the quote unquote favorite, is still a little bit surprising here. I think Brighton have been, slightly better in the last 5 matches, but I want to say, like, recently probably looks like Nottingham Forest have gotten the better of them. So I feel like with all these results and how the odds are playing, this is a bit of a more surprising prediction for me. I feel like just this would normally kind of be a draw prediction for me, but there's more of a gut feeling here with Brighton. So for Nottingham Forest versus Brighton, I went with a 2-1 Brighton win. Next, we have West Ham versus Liverpool. Now, before we even get to this match, I already know how people are going to probably look at this match and probably react. They're going to say, like, yo, like, Liverpool are finished. They're done. It's over. It's just been a very, very rough month of November for the Liverpool lads out there. And West Ham, I guess, are kind of on the uptick. I really don't think so, but I mean, we'll see what the books say. So the odds here have Liverpool at 1.73, which is pretty surprising, right? Like, Liverpool being 1.73 against West Ham. Imagine telling someone that in September, right? Imagine telling someone in September that Liverpool would be 1.73 against West Ham at the end of November. So very shocking line to me. I don't even still think my brain can process it that West Ham could get a result here. But looking at a couple other of the markets, we see the lowest both teams score on the board, which is 1.57 in the West Ham and Liverpool match, which is, again, it's just very surprising to me that now finally the books are also reacting to the results, that they are fully, I want to say not fully, but they are mostly out on Liverpool being that top 3, top 4 elite team in the Prem this season, because these lines don't really indicate it anymore. The total sits at about 3, maybe it'll get to 3.5 before the game starts, because 3.5 is pretty high here. There's not much to look at the head-to-head, because if we look at the recent head-to-head matches, we're just going to see Liverpool dominating them for the most part over the last 3 matches. And then we do have one match here where West Ham got the 2-2 draw. Overall, though, West Ham's recent results have been getting better, right? A win against Newcastle, very good, and then beating Burnley 3-2. I wouldn't say it's a great result, but I mean, when you're West Ham and you're trying to fight relegation, all these results will matter. So the Burnley win is very good. Liverpool have only have 1 win in their last 5, and they don't even have a win in their last 3 Prem matches away from home. With all that being said, though, I didn't spend too much time trying to rationalize myself into making a West Ham positive prediction here. So just a gut feeling still. I've been saying this on stream too, that even though Liverpool have been losing, I haven't been on the right side of them losing yet, right? And what I mean by that is I have not predicted them to lose yet, or to even drop some of these games. So I feel like why should I make the first game I do that against West Ham, right? So for this match, I went with Liverpool West Ham 2-1 win for Liverpool. Now we finally have the final match of match week 13, Chelsea versus Arsenal. This will be the biggest match of the match week, in my opinion, at least. We have 2 absolutely informed teams, especially with both their midweek results, right? Chelsea thrashing Barca. Arsenal, some people wouldn't call it a thrashing, bro. I'm gonna be honest, dude. You beat Bayern 3-1. I'm calling it a thrashing. I don't care if people say they played haram ball, they sat back, whatever. They put 3 goals on Bayern's head top at the Emirates, and I find that to be a very good result for them. So the odds here have Chelsea at 3.4, Arsenal at 2.2. Right away, the first thing I thought about was, damn, like Chelsea, even with how good they are still above 3 odd at home. I would have thought if you would have told me to blind pick the odds here, I would have had Chelsea at about maybe 2.6. I would have had Arsenal at about, maybe 2.4, and then the draw at about, maybe 3.3, 3.4. I just wouldn't have thought Arsenal would have been this big of a favorite. I definitely would have said favorite, but I would have thought maybe around the 2.4 range as a favorite there. Both teams' score sits at 1.75, so the books kind of do feel both these teams will score. I guess Arsenal without no Gabriel kind of, it's more possible without Gabriel for Arsenal here. And the over-under sits right at about 2.5. I would imagine it probably gets closer to 3. And like I said, the recent form for each team is just incredible, right? No L's in either team's last 5 when they've played historically. Here we have an Arsenal 1-0 win, we have a draw, we have another Arsenal win, another draw, another Arsenal win. So Chelsea have not gotten a win from Arsenal in their last 5 matches in the Prem here. If you put a gun to my head and told me I couldn't pick the draw, I think I would lean Arsenal. But for a prediction standpoint, I did have this game being a 1-1 draw between Chelsea and Arsenal, and I think I'm going to stick with that one. I had Arsenal actually drawing Bayern Munich 1-1, which obviously looked terrible, but I still feel like Arsenal away from home this match is the kind of the difference maker here. I think Chelsea are still obviously very solid. You look at Chelsea's home form, the only slip up they had was in Sunderland. And Arsenal's away form, obviously insane. I feel like both teams will score. I do. If one team doesn't score, it'll probably be Chelsea, if anything. But I feel like Arsenal should be able to get this result. All right, boys, that wraps up match week 13. I really appreciate you guys watching the video up until this point. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to me trying to get to a nice goal by the end of the year. Maybe we can hit 7,000. Love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.